Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another discussion video. If you hear any kind of noises right now, I got the windows cracked because the heat is on, starting this week, so it's like well within like the mid 70s to the 80s, so it's pretty hot. So I need a window crack, otherwise I'll just burn the heck up. But anyway, of course, if you watched my spoiler review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness last week, check it out on the channel to get my so I can you'll see my full breakdown and what I thought, because I definitely loved the movie. Thought it was phenomenal. You know, aside for a few viewpoints that I might share with a few other people who might say well, there's a few things. Like American Chavez feels like a walking MacGuffin, didn't have like much agency as they liked. I understand a little bit of that, but she still didn't feel like she was no background character in my eyes. And then like it's supposed to be a multiverse of madness, so we didn't spend time in multiple universes. I mean, like we got like a montage of like a paint and cartoon and like a couple other a dinosaur place and a couple other places, a little brief little stints. It could have helped if we at least spent like at least a minute, like a full minute or two in each of those universes, so we can at least gauge to make it feel like a true like a multiverse of madness instead of just like a two universe madness. So I get it. I still enjoyed it, but I get it. Uh, and then the Illuminati. Like some people feel like they're just there to just be here. Cameos. And then blah blah they died. And they're gone. It's like I still thoroughly enjoyed it. And this is gonna be like some spoilers to Multiverse of Madness, just so you know. But this is like well over a week after Multiverse of Madness came out. Like personally, I feel like a good week of not spoiling it, for like a new movie to people is like a decent enough time. So like, okay, you can have gotten your butt to the theater at any point within like a whole week. Uh, so it's, not really much of an excuse after a certain point, personally. But depending on how big the movie is, like Infinity War and Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home, those are a few exceptions to the rule because you got to give them like at least a good couple of weeks, or like a Star Wars movie, like you got to give those like at least a good couple of weeks because it's so massive that people will be crowding the theater for days. So that's a little bit different. But anyway, I wanted to make this video on the one key thing that people kept, it seems like other viewers kept complaining about that, like I kind of thoroughly disagree with, even though you know, I'm pretty sure they watch the same stuff that I watch, but they, you know, uh, was confused about like the quick heel turn to Wanda in the Multiverse of Madness, and my mind, because I'm listening to this like while on my break at work, and I'm or at least after leaving work on my way home, I'm watching these videos and listening to people's thoughts on the of the movie, and at least a few things kept popping up, and one of the few constants was Wanda's heel turn, why she all of a sudden like went like started Breaking Bad all of a sudden, and it's like they need like an extra thing to understand or gauge why she fell so far. I mean, it's like no, you don't. And even like it's kind of like Vader in a way. If you've been watching my Star Wars reviews, which by the way, after this I'll be posting like Mandalorian season 1 and 2 because I'm going all in order. And like from episode 1 all the way up to uh like Return of the Jedi, you understand like this kid's rise and fall to the dark side, and like with some images I'm about to show you, you can clearly understand Wanda's, you know, wasn't even like a rise and fall. It's like very ups and downs in her life that really informed, like she dealt with, like we all understand, like Wanda dealt with some serious trauma, serious loss, and the few happy moments she had get stripped away violently, for the most part. And it's like it'd be amazing. She's not Captain America, she doesn't have that, stoic, like unwavering, uh, moral compass or whatever. It's like she had like like it's like anybody else. They probably would have gone through that, same stuff. By and large, something will go on with an individual, and she, given her powers, she lashed out violently, and it's like it's hard to, not that I agree with what she did, but it's like understandably, oh, she really like okay, like that is not a quick heel turn. That is like a full turn. That's understandable if you've been paying attention from the time we saw her from like Age of Ultron up to this point. And I'll show you like different images throughout, like through her little character arc and why the heel turn make sense. First and foremost, here you got Wanda, and this one is going to be out of kind of sequence, but it's like I need it like from the focal point. When Wanda and her brother Pietro was little kids, they grew up in Sokovia, a war-torn nation, like dealing with like, like if you've seen WandaVision, you saw, like it was like a last or second last episode where like, Agatha was sitting there pushing her to, look into her past, a very traumatic past. And she, her parents, at least her father, was like some kind of like, from my recollection, some kind of salesman of like these old VHS tapes of old sitcoms, like Dick Van Dyke and like what's the Tony Danza one, Meet the Boss, or Who's the Boss? So it's like and like you got like Malcolm in the Middle and all these other things, throughout the different decades. And when he came home, it's like in that one little apartment was was the only bright light in this whole dismal neighborhood. Like this, like you can hear right outside her house bombs and guns going off, and it's like they this watching television, like the only thing that they the parents can do just to keep like some semblance of normalcy for their kids. I'm pretty sure at their age, because they're no older than maybe like 10, but they should be more than well aware, like what's going on outside their house. But this is something to keep them like, okay, just let them be kids for a moment. Then a bomb goes off, and kills her parents, and she's trapped in rubble with her brother, staring at a Stark missile that at the time we thought like, oh, okay, it was some kind of a defective thing, but she's sitting there with her brother just like nervously waiting for that thing to go off and kill them, but it didn't. We later figure out that was, her emerging mutant powers, even though we didn't call it that then. But now, once they got the rights to the X-Men franchise and stuff like that, like, okay, full on their mutant stuff. So her mutant powers, her budding mutant powers was, keeping that thing, like her hex power was keeping that thing from going off. Because, in the comics, when you gain mutant powers, it's usually either like stress or when you hit puberty, or the combination of both. And so she had to deal with that. Like, I imagine if you ask anybody who grew up in like a, worn or war torn area, it's like, that sticks with you. I imagine that sticks with you in a credible way. And like the PTSD, I can't even fathom, uh, like a kid experiencing that at such a young age, how that affects, because you see Batman becoming Batman because he saw his parents get shot when he was 8 years old. Can you imagine like what Wanda, goes to, like as an adult, experiencing the death of her parents, but in like a, worn, I keep saying worn, a war, war, not war state, but like, like with like military or terrorists or, all this stuff going on around her. And it's like, that kind of thing, just like, and then of course she had like a little issue with Stark because she blames, she needed somebody to blame, and this bomb that he created, that these, freedom fighters or terrorists, or, whatever kind of soldier, that was there, who used these bombs, got a hold of it, so she needed like a face to blame. She needed somebody to vent her anger. Her brother wanted to, put their anger towards to, and he was the one that created these bombs in the first place. So he gets, their like rage. So then, when they got a little older, at some point, Hydra got a hold of them once they probably got wind about, these, extraordinary powers that they just happened to have, and they was experimented on by Hydra, who, by and large, are freaking friends group Nazis, and like Lord knows what kind of experimentations they experience. So we got to add on that to them, their mental state. So like like Baron Strucker, like if it was like Sam Raimi directing, that, you can imagine there'll be some images, very graphic images of experimentation. But I think we get a little bit of that in WandaVision. But then like Ultron eventually showed up. He manipulated them further, and convincing them to like join in his fight against the Avengers, and more specifically Stark, because they had like a common enemy in him. However, they now realize how Ultron was just committed to like wiping out all of humanity, altogether. But it's like, then he raised, Sokovia, the whole entire city of Sokovia, from the ground, while the Avengers are trying to, stop him. Pietro ends up dying, saving Hawkeye and another like Sokovia child, I think. And her loss of him, the only family she had left, she completely lost, and like that completely broke her. Like you saw the image when she fell, and that's why, like, despite how we feel about Joss Whedon, I don't think Age of Ultron is like a bad film. Obviously not as great as the Avengers, but you got like a high bar to leap over when it came to that film. And it wasn't until like maybe like the Russo brothers came in with Civil War and so on to take it to a whole nother level. But and you see like that moment when she just collapsed to the ground, and like her power just wipes out a whole horde of Ultron bots. And like you see that that moment, like how devastating her powers can be when she completely gets rageful and like just like and just loses it. Then you get like Civil War. Now it's like after the events of Sokovia, most of that being like the whole place crashing to the ground, and like they saved as much people as they could after defeating Ultron, but I think there was still a few people who still died in the midst of the fight dealing with like those Ultron bots. But then you get like Sokovia Accords and like the whole situation with Wanda, who's trying to stop like Crossbones as he's about to do a suicide bomb in like a crowded area, who happened to be near like some kind of like embassy or some kind of hospital. I think it was a hospital where a few Wakandan people was doing some like you know uh uh community outreach, or like Doctors Without Borders kind of situation, and they get caught up in that. That's where you get Black Panther and like Wakanda's caught up in this whole Civil War thing. But like you know then like you got like Ross and convincing like Tony and most of the Avengers to sign up and register, because anybody who's like Wanda, or even like someone like Ant-Man, who just got like special gadgets, have to register in order to uh be held accountable, or at least be directed to where they need to be around the globe, essentially be like a police force or whatever like that. But Captain, obviously Captain wasn't with that, because like leaders change, and like politicians and senators, they all change, and then whoever's in power at the time could easily direct us to where they don't need to be, and don't let them go to where they absolutely are needed. And it's like that is dangerous in of itself, and that's why they need to be independent. And despite what because they try to save as much as they can, but it's always it's trite and like kind of cold as it sounds. Is like every superhero at a certain point understands, like, as much as they try to do so, and they definitely try, there's going to be like even Superman, despite his power, there's always going to be like a few people that someone get caught up in a crossfire, or like something happened to him before you even get there, or something. But but as Cap says, is like all that being still in their hands to operate independently, still like it's a good thing. But they try to keep Wanda locked up, but in like a cushy spot, but it's still a prison the way she sees it. That's where she she met Vision like during the whole Age of Ultron thing. But then you got hold on. Yeah. See, it's getting a little low. But then you got in here where there's like a budding friendship, and then soon to be relationship with Vision, even though like some synthetic humanoid robot thing, but still though it's like in Wanda's care, he's a glorified sex robot in my opinion. It's like it's like I don't know, like because we got like like those sex dolls and things like that, and this seems like a more advanced version of that. It's basically what Wanda is using him for, and it's like you can't like have like a significant like relationship with Vision. I mean, like at the end of the day, how could you? Especially with the fact that she wants kids and everything like that, and it's like he doesn't have. Even he can probably form a dick, he can't impregnate her. And at the best that they can hope for is like adoption or like surrogate. But besides all that, they form some kind of like a budding relationship, friendship that turns into something more. But then, with Hawkeye's help, she understands like I can't just sit there and be in this prison, like this ain't right, and like that leads into like the Avengers pretty much imploding thanks to Zemo. And then she and most of Cap's team gets locked up until Cap later on breaks them all out. Then like you get events in the Infinity War, where it's like Thanos coming trying to acquire all the stones, and then after he gets the Time Stone from Strange, he comes to Earth to get the Mind Stone out of Vision, and like she has the power to like at least destroy that thing, but that entails destroying uh Vision altogether. However, they share this moment as like telling like I only feel you, and you see in Infinity War earlier in Infinity War their relationship really gotten like very strong, and like so she had to make a sacrifice, taking the life of somebody she grew to deeply care for, but she knew she had to do it in order to save not only the world but like the entire universe from being wiped out, half of being wiped from existence. But then Thanos used the Time Stone, rewound time, reformed him to, take that stone out from his head and killing him, while she had to watch him dying. She had to kill him herself. Then he bring him back to life just to kill him himself to take the stone, making what she did pointless. And that was devastating. He snapped his fingers. Half of the universe goes away, including her. And then she eventually comes back, and she's completely furious. And then you see like her powers, when like she taps into the dark side essentially, and then she like really unleashes, because she and Captain Marvel was the only two people that could probably handle Thanos by themselves, because that power is essentially she already technically had like this kind of mutant thing, but like the Mind still kind of like with the experimentation from Hydra, the kind of like really like fucks with it a bit. But then of course like Captain Marvel purely got it from the Space Stone, and that's why she got her thing. But like since they got their stuff from like the stones, or at least tampered with their DNA a bit. So now like she like really cut loose on Thanos, which she had to like pull a Hail Mary and call like raining fire just to get her to stop him before she ripped him apart, which she was damn near about to. Because she puts it, you took everything from me. And like, Vision was like, like her, because like I said, like any solace she had was, more, by and large, usually is violently stripped from her. Ultron, in a way, violently stripped Pietro away from her. Thanos violently stripped Vision away from her. The two, good constants in her life. Can you imagine, like, all, like, the, relationships, whether familial or, like, friendship or, or a serious significant other, all that violently stripped away from you. Even, like, when her parents was violently stripped away from her by terrorists, but, like, unknowingly Stark, because it was his weapons. Like, all your connections you made up to this point in your life, all violently taken away from you. How would your mental state would be? It'll be no dissimilar to Wanda. And if you have her powers, you'll probably act the exact same dang way. Then you get like leading into WandaVision, where like, after witnessing like, because the government sees the corpse of Vision, and with Stark gone, they're like the only other people that will claim it. To this day, I don't understand why like Rhodey at the very least, or Pepper Potts can say like step in and say, hey, property of Tony Stark, or even like Happy is like like they're like essentially beneficiaries or whatever, and they can step in like, hey, we call the shots, it was vented by Stark. We're like heading Stark right now. We say that Vision will go to Wanda to do what she feels right with it. Don't understand why, because those are the primary three that could easily step in and say something. Don't know why, but anyway, Wanda, sees uh the dismembered, body of Vision. She can't feel him anymore. She, because later on you find out he, set out like before the events of Infinity War, he, set up like a plot of land for them to live and grow old in. It's like only one of them can grow old, but she goes to this place, sees like it hasn't even been like built yet. I guess they was planning on to before the Infinity War event started, and then she's like sitting, standing in that plot and just had a complete breakdown, and it's a complete psychological break at this point because she's been through a lot up until this moment, and like after Civil War up to the events of Infinity War, it's probably like the most solace she probably had in a long while, and that's what she wanted. She didn't want to be like a superhero. She did that. Then like she met up with Vision, and after the whole Civil War kabacle, it's like I'm done with this crap. And, like I don't want to be no superhero. Like I'm not Cap, and like I'm not Thor. It's like I don't want to be in this. And even with Stark, when he, despite like like armors and stuff like that, unlike in the comics, it's like he wants to put a shield around like the world because he doesn't want to do this forever himself. He wanted like a simple life with Pepper Potts, because like you can't do this forever. It's like there's always gonna be something or somebody causing like some level of mayhem, but they can't always be there, and they can't, and they want to live a life ultimately on their own without having to feel like they have to step in or like step up or anything like that. You got like young heroes like uh Spider-Man and like all these new young Avengers that's popping up now. It's like they can like handle like the next wave. We can teach them and they can handle the next wave, while I want to just have like a relationship. I want to have a family. I want to just go home and like raise a family and just be normal, and that's what Wanda essentially wants as well. But she can't have that because all that stuff she did have is completely gone, and so she snaps. She goes to this Westview area, and where this plot of land is, and then she has a mental breakdown and just her powers is reality warping. So this like radius of her powers envelops the entire town and turn it into like a Dick Van Dyke I Dream of Genie style of a town that each preceding episode goes into a different decade with different kind of sitcoms. So she just wants to just pretend, because like that's how she, because that's subconsciously is like how as a kid she watched all these simple sitcoms where it's like by and large always ends in like a with a happy ending with a nice little bow at the end of it. There's no excessive drama or like battles to be fought or anything like that. It's just like a simple life with simple problems that can easily be fixed, and it always ends on a happy note. And like that's where you get all this stuff, all these different decades. It's like like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and like in the 2000s. But every once in a while she gets these little reminders, like like a while it's in like everything's in black and white, she see this little red toy plane, in those inverted from being like a drone, it went to the radius, and because of the time difference, being like in like the 60s, it's like it has to be something that fits to the time, so it turns into a little toy plane, but it's colored while everything is black and white. Or you get like Monica Rambeau, who tries to go into the radius but ends up getting caught up in like the TV sitcom life that Wanda established. And so she starting to reclaim her uh, memories of why she's even there. And then when she brings up like Pietro and like Ultron, then she's like really like, why'd you just say that? And then you see like you trying to make me remember like an awful period in my life. I'm not having that. That's none of it's going to happen here. I don't want to deal with that. She doesn't want to. She wants to eventually ignore she doesn't want to deal with her problems. Essentially, she has a fantasy that she just want to live in and ignore the outside problems. She doesn't want to deal with it. So she throws like violently throws Monica outside the radius, which inadvertently, starts to like, give her powers in that way without thinking. But then when Vision's starting to catch wise on certain things that's happening around him, she keeps like doing certain things to kind of distract them, like giving them kids. And so you got like these kids who in the comics like Wiccan and Wiccan and somebody. I forgot what the other superhero. But I only remember Wiccan more specifically because the other one got like super speed powers as you see in the show. But Wiccan is a magic user as well, and like I remember him is like married to not the Hulk. It's like another Hulkling, I think, who's like they're both like homosexual superheroes. But she like, okay, I have children, like, and it's like, and it's wonderful, and it's like, like, and this is where it starts here. She establishes a family, and it's like she's happy. She has children to look after. She wants to be a mom. She wants to raise kids, and this is normal. This is what people do, not fight aliens or or crime on a daily basis. They live a life. They have mortgages. They got children to raise, and take them to school and soccer practice and blah blah blah. But like Visions, like I said, like slowly but surely catching wise. But then like you get like Agatha just like messing. Like she's taking a part of this as well, like messing with her and kind of forcing her to deal. Or in her like past, because you come to realize she is the legendary Scarlet Witch, and it's like, she's, forcing that, because that innate power to come to the surface now, which either she's mentally was trying to block or blunt, or just like ain't like harnessing it. But then it's like Agatha inadvertently kind of forced it out of her, and then she's like leveled up and essentially. So all that rage, and this has come to a head where now like she had to acknowledge the fact that she completely I want to say mind wiped, but mind controlled everybody in that town to be beholden to wherever standard she set in place in that town for whatever decade it's in. And then of course, like, after she, this is where people get kind of like, lost, because like it seemed like after the whole events of Westview, she seemed like she was, because she did set things right, released everybody and everything like that, and she went off to the mountains to just be isolated. So she seems like she would have like learned a lesson about like messing with things beyond her control, but she didn't fully learn the lesson, especially after she took because she had to say goodbye to Vision all over again, and her children that she made up, but she grown attached to. And some people say like, after like Multiverse of Madness, okay, like why don't she just make those children? She make those children before, she can make them again, but deep down, it seems like she knew. I mean, I might be talking out my ass here, but it's like deep down, I think Wanda knows that I know these are just apparitions that I made up. Because if something breaks her concentration, or or what, or like neutralize her powers, those kids are gone, like finito in an instant. So that's where she like got this book and tried to find a different reality, to where these kids are flesh and blood. But messing with the Darkhold, as you've seen like in Agents of Shield, or even in like Multiverse of Madness, once you start reading, little by little you get corrupted. And it's kind of like a drug. Like once you get a hold of that stuff, you essentially want to use it more for, and it's messing with, because she's already grief stricken, she's already angry, she already lost so much, and the Darkhold kind of like heightens those feelings. It's kind of like Palpatine messing with Anakin, who's already like have like abandonment issues. He's dealt with loss. He's definitely felt like betrayal by the Jedi Council, and it's all that's being like toyed with that led him to be Darth Vader. And this book inadvertently pushes Wanda even further towards the edge, more so than she probably than initially she probably wanted. And that's where we see at the end, just like fooling around with this book, and it's like, oh, do you want your kids? We can help you find it. Just keep on reading. It's like that book is just kind of like whispering and just messing with her mind. I mean, I'm not saying, because some people are saying like, oh, you're using the book to make it explain like, hey, like she can't like just, or at least the opposite. It's like, you're like, oh, women be crazy, blah blah blah, or like, oh, it's gotta be the book, and it's gotta be, why she gotta be the book, and it's like people on both sides, are taking it way too far, and just understanding like, yes, I can agree, like, at the events of the Multiverse of Madness, it might not sound PC, but yeah, she's fucking crazy, she's bat fucking shit crazy. However, you can understand from what started and how we get to this point, that she is drove to this point. She is pushed to a certain point with all this loss and devastating, and she's fucking mad. She wanted like a simple life, and she just feels like she can't have that because there's always something, and that takes that away from her. And she just like, she fucking had it. She lost her parents, her brother, Vision, 3 times. And then she had to lose her kids that she, they were made up by magic, but she's still grown accustomed to. She spoke with them, and she like had like moments, like Halloween and everything like that. She had like a significant time to grow attached. And now all that is just wiped clean now. And it's like, she's just done. And like, and she felt like if this book can help her find a way to give her kids, that like somewhere out there, then she will damn well do it. So yeah, of course you get like now currently where like Wanda is now pretty much like dream walking through other Wandas in different realities, trying to acquire America Chavez to acquire her powers so she can freely jump universes to claim any pair of kids that she, like a version of her kids that she wants, take, and damn like the other Wanda, because she wants those kids. And it's like, and I understand people saying like, oh, why she's not caring about Vision? We got White Vision out there. Yeah, he could have easily shown up to like probably only person can easily talk her down. But I think it probably only took a Wanda to stop a Wanda, because she pretty much went on to a murderous tear through two different universes in order to get this kid to get her powers, and it only took another Wanda to put a stop to her, or at least give her some, give her back some sense, without like that hold the Darkhold had on her. That's why it's called the Dark Hold. It had like a hold on her, and that's why you see, with Strange with a Third Eye, he only had the book for a little while, and even then, it had some touches on him that like some kind of like remnants of its grasp on him for what little time he had. So, yeah, Wanda's breakdown into madness is easily understandable. Don't agree with it, but it's easily understandable. It's kind of like with Joker, it's like that one bad day situation. She had a series of bad days that she could have benefited from some serious therapy after, not even after the events of Endgame, but after the events of WandaVision. She probably should have, because at least Bucky, stopped to have some freaking therapy. That therapist should be, or even have some, because like even there's like Doc Samson, who's like got like Hulk-like powers too, who's in the comics, for a good stint of time was like a therapist for superheroes. So because superheroes need therapy, but it's like half of them in the comics had like secret identities or blase blase blase. They can't really like feel like they can fully open up. But if you get like a superhero who's also a psychologist, that could be beneficial because you got somebody to trust. Just like Night Nurse is a doctor or besides like Doctor Strange, Night Nurse is like a medical physician for superheroes, so that way they don't have to worry about going to like a hospital and getting their identities outed or their blood samples like experimented on or like look too far into or whatever. You got to have these kind of things for a superhero community, to have like a good solid trust and and have some good care. And Wanda could have seriously benefited from this kind of thing, because she, almost anybody in the MCU, at least out like maybe like a few select people, probably had the worst trauma. And that's not, and that's why I say this is not a complete, like quick heel turn. This is like a right, amount of heel turn. And I know this won't last. Eventually she become good, but I imagine, because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a Wanda, Scarlet Witch movie, and at some point they probably, because that's my little grievance about the movie, is that they should have allowed her to do like more mutants, or whisper more mutants in Earth 616. After she shared a mind with Professor Xavier, she could have gotten wind. Oh, you have mutants in here? Oh, someone who was like me and my brother? Oh, I want that in my universe too. They didn't do that, so I guess they'll do that in the Scarlet Witch movie. But obviously she's not dead. But yeah, she had her little hero moment between like after well, at least by the end of Age of Ultron up to the point of Civil War, she had probably like a good significant amount of like hero stuff, when she's hanging with like Vision and Cap and the other people who in a way was like her family, kind of the same way Black Widow didn't have anybody, but the Avengers were like her surrogate family. That and it could have been like that with Wanda, but all that went tits up after the Sokovia Accords. So yeah, that's my little brief take on like Wanda's heel turn, because it makes perfect sense if you track from beginning to from like her childhood up to this point. It's just a series of traumatic events with brief spurts of good moments. And that's why that line from Vision, it's still so ring true to this day. Like, what is grief but love persevering? And some people wonder, like, oh, why didn't she bump into any version of Vision that can easily talk her down or whatever. I'm not sure. Maybe it probably wouldn't have worked that well because that's not her vision. Because her mind is completely like off the rails. It's like you can say like, well, these kids are not your kids, but that's not how she will see it. Because you can't explain to a person who went off the rails. You can explain logic to them. Whatever makes sense in their mind is what makes sense. So yeah, that is my take on how Wanda's like madness, because like she's grief stricken, she's angry, she's traumatized, all that in combination with her powers. What do you think is going to happen? You should be amazed how long it took to get to this point. Because like anybody who's been through something, may not to this level, but like we all felt grief. We all got like that level of angry that you just want to have like a big outburst and just like damn everybody. We've all been there, and it's like it's hard to say like you can't understand to a certain degree what Wanda is dealing with. So even though I'm like when like they added the dialogue for Doctor Strange is like, you made your kids out of magic, and Wanda's like retort to that is like, isn't that true to all mothers? After that point, it's like, oh yeah, she's she's already like not, the Darko really pushed her over the edge at that point, and it's like Heath Ledger's Joker. It's like gravity is like madness. All it takes is a little push, and that dark hole gave her that push over that edge. So leave a comment below. Let me know what your take on it is. Do you disagree with me, or do you agree with me to a certain degree? I'm curious to know your take on this, guys, because like the whole heel turn that felt too fast for most people didn't feel fast to me. It seems like a logic progression. The way like that arc of Wanda completely makes sense to me. Because she up to the point of WandaVision, the focus wasn't never on her. She always been like the supporting or sideline character with certain moments. But like Elizabeth Olsen is doing a stellar job and really making like Scarlet Witch shine. And it's like, yeah, her arc throughout the MCU up to this point has been fantastic. But yeah, I will see you guys in a little bit as I start covering Mandalorian season 1 and 2. So take care.